meeting of the AMATS Policy Committee to order. I'll run through the roll call. I know Ms. Day is going to be, Baldwin Day is going to be joining us shortly. Mr. Downey? Here. Ms. Frank?
Here, thank you.
Mr. Bowen? Here. And I'm Sean Holland, and I'm here. So let the record show that 4 out of the 5 of us are here. And like I mentioned, I'll announce when Ms. Baldwin Day joins us. Aaron, could you please give us a public involvement announcement?
Yes, thank you. Welcome to the AMATS Policy Committee meeting. Public comments are welcome and encouraged with 3 minutes given to each speaker. After the committee discusses each item, members of the public will be invited to comment. Housekeeping items for virtual attendees, please keep your cameras off unless speaking. For those attending by phone, please press *6 to mute or unmute yourself. Thank you.
Thanks, Aaron. Do we have an approval of the agenda?
Move to approve.
Second. By Mr. Downey, seconded by Dr. Boland. Are there any proposed changes?
I'd make one.
Sure.
We may be appointing a member of the Bicycle Pedestrian Advisory Committee, which is Action 5C. I would suggest that we move Action 5C ahead of A and B, so we can. I'm sure they would love to stick around for the whole meeting, but
Just in case they don't.
just in case they don't.
And is that a motion with the second, or can I just ask for no objection
When
to
you-
this modification?
A second.
Okay.
Yeah.
I hear a second. For the record, Ms. Baldwin Day has just joined us. I have a first and a second to move action item 5C to the first action item. Are there any objections? Hearing none, that modification is approved. As I can ask, so the agenda is approved. I'm lost here.
Yeah, you'd have to ask if there approval or any objection to approving the agenda as modified.
Any objections to approving the agenda as modified? I'm hearing none, so the agenda is approved as modified. On to agenda item number 4. We have the minutes from the November 20th, 2025 meeting for approval. Do I have an motion?
Move to approve.
Second. Moved by Ms. Baldwin Day, seconded by Dr. Boland. Are there any changes or discussion? Hearing none, are there any objections to approving the minutes? Hearing none, the November 20th minutes are approved. On to action item 5A, the 2050 MTP Amendment number 2. Do we have a presentation?
We'd actually be doing 5C first.
Sorry, 5C.
Yep.
So we have a presentation for that.
Yes, Emily will be the one talking about this one. Thank you.
Emily Weiser, I'm the non-motorized coordinator for AMATS and also staff to the Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Committee. As you've heard in previous meetings, the BPAC currently has 3 open seats. One is a public member seat, one is for a business member, and one is for a community or environmental organization. We've been advertising these seats for at least a few months. Some have been vacant longer than that. And we recently received 2 applications for the public member seat, which was great, but we only had 1 public member seat. So we were a little disappointed we were going to have to choose only 1. However, in speaking with the BPAC at their last meeting, they pointed out that 2 of their current members who are in public member seats are actually qualified for the community or environmental organization seat. And one of them, Diana Rhodes, received formal approval from her organization, the Anchorage Park Foundation, to represent them on the BPAC. So she would be able to shift into that community or environmental organization seat, leaving 2 public member seats open, which means that both of our applicants could then be appointed. That is the recommendation we're bringing. I think it would be wonderful to fill 2 out of those 3 seats. We don't have a formal process for moving people between seats. I don't know how often that's been done in the past, but we wanted to bring it to you guys and say, you know, if you guys think that sounds like a good idea, you can approve it and enact that. Our suggestion is that Ms. Rhodes would fill out the remainder of her term. It's a 3-year term that started this March. If you'd prefer, we could shift her into a whole new term in her seat. And if you have other ideas, you're certainly welcome to do that as well. Any questions? I think we have Mr. Weatherby online. He's one of our applicants. Miles Brodsky is the other one, and I didn't hear whether he would be available, but if you guys have any questions, Sam said that he would be here.
Did you see, Mr. Brodsky's on?
Mr. Weatherby's
Mr.
online.
Weatherby's on. Oh, would it be appropriate to ask Mr. Weatherby if he'd like to introduce himself to us at this point?
You can, if you guys want.
We'll put you on the spot, Mr. Weatherby.
Okay, hello. Yeah, I heard about this opening, and I'm a person that's been bicycling and walking and taking the bus to work for about 10 years now. And I thought that it would be nice to maybe assist with providing my opinion or knowing more about the processes that go on, because I feel it's an important service to the community. And also, I live in Eagle River, so I know there's not a lot of us that use non-motorized transportation to get to Anchorage. So I feel like maybe my perspective will be useful or unique.
I agree with that. Yeah, thank you, Mr. Weatherby, and thanks for your willingness to participate. Do we have any questions or comments from the committee?
No, not at this time.
And no questions from this side either, Mr. Weatherby. But,
Okay.
Are there any comments from the public? Please, in the back corner. Yeah, announce your name and where you're from, and you have 3 minutes if you'd like. So.
I'm a member with BPAC Anchorage, and I just wanted to speak in support of both of the applications that came in for this position. Mr. Weatherby has been, I do know him, he's been an active member in the biking community, and he would be a great asset. I don't know Mr. Brodsky, but in reading his application, it was an eye-opening statement and his perspective on bicycling in the city versus dangerous activities he does for his work. So his perspective, I think, would also be valuable. And I want to thank both people for volunteering to be an advisor to this committee.
Great, thanks, Ms. Lynch. Anybody else? Alexa?
Thank you. Alexa Dotson, Executive Director of BPAC Anchorage. I will echo what Carrie just mentioned. We have two really fantastic candidates for the BPAC, and I'm really happy that we were able to find a solution where we could bring them both on board. The BPAC is a really important body, but it has been having problems with meeting quorum and being able to take actions lately. So I just really want to thank AMATS and the staff and everybody who sat down and figured out a solution to bring both of these great candidates forward. So I hope that they're both approved, and we can have a BPAC that's a little bit more functional in the future. Thank you.
Thanks, Alexa. Anybody else? No, thank you. What is the will of the committee? We need some help with the motion, or-
I'm to shift Diana Rhodes from a public member seat to the Community Environmental Organization seat and appoint Mr. Brodsky and Mr. Weatherby to the public member seats on the BPAC.
Second.
By Ms. Valdez, seconded by Mr. Downey. Are there any objections to approving that motion? I'm not hearing any, so 2 new members of the BPAC. Great.
Yay.
Thank you for volunteering.
Yes, thank you.
B. We're back to action item 5A,
Yes.
the 2050 MTP Amendment number 2.
So this will be Rhiannon.
Hello,
Hey,
Rhiannon Brown, MTP Coordinator with AMATS. Before you, we have amendment number 2 for the 2050 MTP. Within it are 3 changes and updates. The first one being an update to the TIP NHS 1 Seward project, that's Seward Highway O'Malley Road to Diamond Boulevard. This is to update the project description as the committee, I believe, in October of 2025 had the description updated in the TIP. So now we're reflecting that update in the MTP as is federally mandated. The other 2 updates in here are 2 new projects. The MOA is seeking grant funding for these. These are life and safety projects. They're not considered Cat X projects, so they do have to go through a full environmental review. So that's why they have to be added to the MTP. So should they receive that grant funding, they can just hit the ground rolling. So for those two new projects, 24 million was added to the financials. We're still considerably constrained financially. And the other updates are just reflecting the update to the description and then the addition of the two new projects within the actual project table. So our ask is for the policy committee to review the changes and release the amendment for a 45-day public comment period. At this point, the plan is to take this to the January 13th assembly meeting.
Thank you, Leanna. Any questions or comments from the committee?
Given the scope changes to the Seward Highway O'Malley to Diamond reconstruction, do we also anticipate budget changes?
Not that I'm aware of, not that I was told. I don't believe so.
Thanks.
It still matches what's in the tip.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
I would say that like any project in this stage of development, that's gonna evolve. We have our stakeholder working group, developing the purpose and need, developing the scope. So those things certainly could change. But anybody else from the committee? Hearing none, are there any comments or questions from the public? Comments from the public? Not seeing any. What is the will of the committee?
Move to release amendment 2 for the 45-day public comment period.
Second.
By Mr. Downey, seconded by Ms. Baldwin Day. Do I have any objections to approving that motion? Not hearing any. The action item 5A is approved.
Thank you. Thanks for your time.
On to action item 5B.
This will be me.
The 2023 to 2026 funding grant program amendment number 4. Thank you.
Yes, okay, everybody, this is our yearly amendment to the TIP. We have a lot of changes outlined here. I'm going to go through all the changes in the memo. I have a minor correction as well to make to this that I'll do through here. And then at the end of this, I'll talk about 2 substantial changes that we have to make overall, or that one staff is recommending and another that came in from DOT. So bear with me as I go through because it may take a few minutes. So we're updating the TIP for amendment number 4. I will remind everybody, it's our last amendment for this TIP. This is a personal thing for me because this is the first TIP that I helped to develop and it is almost done. So it's a little bittersweet to see this coming along, that we're almost completely through the 23 through 26 TIP. With that said, we've made some updates to the table 1 summary to add in some new information in there about the Protect grant costs and the rural tribal grant that the municipality of Anchorage is seeking. So we already mentioned those as the MTP amendment. They also need to be added to the TIP, which is being done as part of this amendment. Table 2, it says roadway on the memo. It should say complete streets. I apologize. Spenard Road rehabilitation, adding $1 million in design for FY26 to keep that project moving forward. Rabbit Creek Road rehabilitation, moving the $5 million in right-of-way in 26 to beyond 26. And then move the 26 or 25 funding to 26, just based on the current scope of the the current schedule of the project. There is a slight decrease to the overall project cost from 35.7 million to 35.35 million. Potter Drive rehabilitation, move the FY25 design and right-of-way funding to 26. No change to the overall project cost. That's in line with the current project's schedule. Mountaineer Drive, same thing, moving the 25 funding to 26, no change to the overall cost. Motorized pavement preservation project, reduced the funding in FY26 from 7.8 million to 490,000. A lot of this comes from we don't have a lot of capacity to keep moving projects forward. Capacity at DOT and the municipality of Anchorage are pretty limited, so there is not a lot of available staffing to do more projects than what we already have outlined in the program. So unfortunately, this is one of the ones that's impacted by that. I will say another impact is we've moved the L and I Street rehabilitation project out of the motorized pavement project and into its own project. So there is a little bit of a change there for that. Spenard Road rehabilitation, the next phase, updated the project scope to include intersection improvements as approved by the policy committee. Chugach Way rehabilitation moved the FY26 design right-of-way funding to beyond 26, so a change and delay to that project schedule. 36th Avenue moved the FY26 funding for design right-of-way to beyond FY26, and then did a small cost reduction to that project. Dale and Folker Street updated the project scope to include intersection improvements as approved by the policy committee, and then added the new roadway project for L and I Street rehabilitation at 5.050 million in beyond 26 and 500,000 in right away for FY26. Excuse me. Do you guys have questions on this table?
I think just on that last one, Aaron, you said slightly different numbers than I'm reading.
50,000 in right away for funding in FY26 and 5 million in beyond FY26 for a total cost of 5.050 million.
Great.
I do have, okay.
Question for Aaron?
Yes.
Maybe I'll just start off. I think, you know what? I didn't review this until last night, and it shouldn't be a surprise to me, but it was a surprise to me that we're delaying 15 different projects. And I think the DOT, I have to take ownership of that. I think we need to go through all those 15 different projects and identify why they're delayed. We're just having such a challenge to deliver these AMAX projects on time. And we have to come up with a solution. We don't have a solution, and I hate to bring a problem without a solution, but we'll be working. Anyway, now I'll turn it over to Ms. Ball.
Yeah, I think that was the substance of my question. Substance of my question is, I'd like to understand where and how and why these delays are happening. It is disconcerting, and so I would personally like a finer detail on what sorts of roadblocks or if it's, staff limitations we might be running into. So if that's something that we could explore and perhaps come back with some understanding on that, I think that would be very helpful.
Okay, I can ask for more detail on that. I know there was a project manager at DOT who unfortunately suffered a family tragedy, and she was responsible for a few of these projects, and she ended up leaving. So there is a little bit of a delay due to that. So, stuff happens, and we wish her all the best. But there are some of these other projects that are not hers that are also delayed that, I'll be honest with you, we're probably going to see more delays on. Mountaineer Drive, for example, the project team has already been very candid that we're going to see some more delays on that because some of the geotechnical teams have been pulled off for the Western Alaska work, and they're delayed in moving that project forward a little while they wait for that to finish. So I'll do what I can to get that info as soon as possible.
I guess generally, it's Anchorage is tough because it's the most urban environment that we have in the state. Sure, resource challenged and various other, we have overlapping planning process, but I'm not going to make any excuses. It's my job to find a solution. So, any other comments or questions from the committee?
Okay, I'll go to the next table. Table 3 is non-motorized.
Maybe I started too soon.
No, that's okay. We have a lot, so
Wait until the end.
non-motorized table, there are some changes here. And one of the corrections I need to note is the downtown trail connection one. We reduced the FY25 funding from 16.86 million to 15.673 million in a rare occasion of cost savings. So unfortunately, I goofed a little when I put this in here because we have to add a little bit of design funding in FY26. And I didn't reflect that the total project cost is actually decreasing, not increasing, and it is decreasing by a total of $818,000. So pretty exciting for that project.
A correction on that one. Downtown trail connection is we have not opened construction bids on that.
Mhm. Yep. Fish Creek Trail Connection, the FY,
Sorry, you said,
Well, it says here that as the construction bid came in below the estimated amount, we haven't construction bids. We're anticipating January, I think, where we need to still buy some credits to get our core permit this close, but it hasn't advertised yet.
good. Maybe we'll have the project, what they sent to us in the future. Fish Creek Trail Connection, move the FY 26 utility construction funding from FY 26 to beyond FY 26. This is not an entire year delay. It's not noted here, but I want to make sure everybody understands. This is only about a month delay because it was a month or two delay because it was right at the end of FY 26 fiscal year, and it would end up having to be in October or November, the beginning of the FY 27 fiscal year. So it's a very small delay, and I didn't want anybody to think that it was a full year delay. In addition, there's adding 950,000 in design funding in FY 26 for final design efforts on that project. Active transportation pavement replacement. There are a couple of things here. Reducing the FY 25 funding by 2 million as it was not obligated, and reduce the FY 26 funding and only show the design efforts for the Sitka Street Park project. So that's a total cost reduction of 2.274 million for that. Again, a lot of it has to do with limited staffing available to start any new projects, especially the pavement projects. That one also had a project moved out. The Minnesota Drive sidewalk repairs moved as a separate project. So there were some adjustments there. Northern Lights Boulevard sidewalk repairs, reduced the funding a little bit there, about a total cost of 2.4 million reduction on that project. That's just based on the latest estimate from the project manager. Campbell Creek Trail grade separated crossing at Lake Otis Parkway, move the FY 25 funding to FY 26. I will let you know that there is the delay on this project mostly because the Muni, DOT, and AMATs are trying to figure out what to do with this project. There's a lot of right-of-way impacts anticipated with an overcrossing at this location here. So getting that information from the Department of Transportation, having the municipality of Anchorage look at it, it's taken a little bit of time with the holidays. So we do have a meeting we're trying to get set up between the three groups to discuss how we want to move forward on that project and bring that forward to the policy committee as a recommendation. And then, as I said earlier, added a new project, Minnesota Drive sidewalk repairs, rehabilitation. This one, we had a presentation from DOT on, and the policy committee approved some additional work to be done as part of this project. So we had to pull it out as a separate rehab project. Any questions on the non-motorized table? Okay, table 4, plans and studies, moving the AC corridor plan out of the 23 through 26 program. It was originally scheduled in FY 26, but due to the staffing limitations at DOT and the planning department, these corridor plans are taking a little longer than anticipated to do all the public engagement and all the analysis needed. I think we were a little too ambitious to say we were going to do a corridor plan once every year for 4 years. So recognizing that, we had to space them out a little bit, and the AC corridor plan is moving to FY 29.
Maybe just a quick comment on that. My memory said we were going to put our efforts to Tudor Muldoon corridor study instead of this one.
No,
Maybe
the
it wasn't a
plan
formal
for
conversation.
what's shown in the 27 through 30 tip is Muldoon will start in 27, I believe, and then AC will start in 29.
And no promises, but I don't know that I'm ready to give up on that one yet, so. Sorry.
Okay, congestion mitigation, air quality. This one's pretty exciting because there's 3 new projects here. The first one is the Downtown Transit Center. So AMATs and DOT have been working together to try and utilize some of the state CMAQ funding to help fund this project. So we're showing that in here. I will let you know if the state CMAQ funding is not available because it is used on something else. The idea would be to utilize AMAT's funding to pay for this. One of the big things here is transit, I believe, was originally going to seek a grant for this. It was an 80-20, so 80% federal, 20% local match. It was going to be about $5 million in local match required. If we use the CMAQ funding or AMAT's STBD funding, it actually is a 90-10 split. So it's about a half reduction of the match. So it goes from 5 million to about 2.5 million. So it's a pretty big benefit to the Muni for AMATs to fund this and to get it done.
Yeah, thanks, Eric. I think this is the biggest bright spot in the amendment. I'm really excited about that. I don't know, Sean, if you have any updated information from your side on how possible that's going to be.
I don't.
Okay,
Sorry.
great. Well, anyway, thanks for working on it together.
Yep. And then there's two new transit projects, one a transit technology modernization project, which sounds pretty exciting. And then there's the Anchor Rides Fare Collection Upgrade project. I don't see Bart, but I believe Bart is online. If you guys have any questions about those transit projects.
No, I mean, I think as Mr. Downey said, this is absolutely the bright spot in the tables, and yeah, particularly, us being able to upgrade the way that we allow people to pay for public transit and Anchor Rides is a huge boon. So I'm likewise excited about all three of these.
We even have our little sweatshirts on that we're repping People Mover today.
Rubbing it in.
So, we have these. Okay, table 6, pavement replacement, just updating it to reflect that there are two projects being moved out of it. The LI Street project, which is a complete street project now, and then the Minnesota Drive Pathway project, which is in the non-motorized table. Table 7, HSIP, some changes here from the Department of Transportation. The Anchorage flashing yellow arrow signal head display improvements, move the FY26 utility and construction to beyond FY26 with a small reduction, and then add 150,000 in right-of-way funding in FY26. There's the Tudor Road, Baxter Road to Peterson channelization, move the FY25 funding into FY26. Then there's the Old Stewart Highway Industry Way, 120th Avenue channelization. This is moving the funding from FY26 to beyond FY26, so in FY27. And we added a note, this project is still underway, but because the funding is being moved out of the current fiscal years of the TIP, it cannot remain in the TIP. So it has to be removed from the table. We just want people to know that this project is still moving on and is underway. Mountain View Drive safety improvements, reduce the FY26 funding by 1.294 million and reduce the beyond FY26 by 599,000. So there's a total project cost reduction of 1.893 million. Just as a note, we have some other updates to the HSIP table, but I'll get to those after everything else for you all. Table 8, the NHS table, there's some changes here. I don't have a lot of information on these, so I will do the best I can, but DOT really will have to speak to why these changes are happening. There's the AMATS area NHS pavement and bridge project, reduce the FY26 funding by 5.95 million. The Abbott Road pavement preservation, move the FY26 funding to beyond FY26. Glen Highway and Artillery Road interchange improvements, increase the FY26 funding and reduce the beyond FY26 funding. Total project cost increased by 80,000 with those changes. Glen Highway and Highland Road interchange preservation and operational improvements, move the FY25 right-of-way funding to FY26. And then move the FY26 utilities construction to beyond FY26 and reduce the total by $9,000. Glen Highway Incident Management Traffic Accommodations, reduce the FY26 funding by 2.131 million. Next, we removed the Glen Highway Incident Management Traffic Accommodation Stage 1 project. My understanding, I think that's either finished or being rolled into the currently active project, so it was no longer needed in the TIP anymore. Then there's the Glen Highway milepost 1 to 34, added in the 26 right-of-way funding of 65,000 and increased the beyond FY26 funding by 2.8 million. Next, to remove the Glen Highway milepost 1 to 34 rehab, Parks Highway Stage 1. I believe this is the milepost 1 to 12, which is done or completed or being rolled into another portion of the project. So the request was to remove it from the TIP. Seward Highway 36th Avenue interchange, added 5.5 million in funding in FY26 for design, and then reduced the beyond FY26 funding by 5.65 million. Tudor Road overcrossing replacement, added FY26 design funding of $1 million and increased the beyond FY26 by 500,000. And then the Central Region ADA compliance project, remove the FY26 total and reduce the project cost by 400,000. Any questions on that table?
Yeah. I'm curious about the ADA compliance project and the removal of funding. Who can you speak to why that's occurring?
I cannot know.
Do we have anybody from DOT that could answer that question? Do you know, James, do you recall?
James Dorsick, deep planning. Off the top of my head, I think it's just an alignment of the scope and schedule to the most current information from the team.
Are there active projects that are a part of that sort of umbrella that will continue to move forward even without funding in fiscal year
Yes.
2026? Okay. Do any of those happen to involve accessible pedestrian signals?
I don't have that information.
That'd be great. Thank you very much.
I'm sorry, that was specifically for pedestrian.
That was for the Central Region ADA compliance project.
But the subject you were asking about was false.
Oh, yes, accessible pedestrian signals. Yeah.
Is there also sneaky good news in here in that we're gonna move up the 36th Avenue Seward Highway and then the very nearby Tudor Road overcrossing? Is that, looks like that's changed and maybe happening sooner?
I don't know, have you accelerated your schedule at all, Galen? Or?
No.
What is, top of your head, what's your construction schedule for, which goes first, 36 or Tudor?
Tudor would go first,
What year?
2030.
Okay.
And
So
then,
this, yeah,
so Galen Jones, Alaska DOT, the plan is to not have both of those interchanges under construction at the same time, because that would be problematic for the traveling public being so close. So we are planning to stagger those by 2 years, with Tudor going first. Scheduled for 2030. We'll see if we can accelerate that a little bit, but no promises.
well, I didn't mean to ask for acceleration. It just looks like maybe there is an or is it just that, I guess why are we moving funding into 26?
It's just adding funding in there because there's currently not any funding in 30 for the interchange, the 36th Avenue interchange. They were adding 5 million for the design work that they have underway for it because it was state funded, I believe.
I believe it's
Yes,
funding.
that
For,
is-
it's only programmed through the environmental document completion.
Okay, great, thanks.
Any other questions on table 9? On to table 10?
Yep. Okay, so last table we're making changes on, we have the University Lake Drive project. It's moving the funding from FY25 to FY26. Just as a reminder, this is one of the old earmarks from long ago that's still underway. Next, Campbell Track Facility alternate entrance alignment. Some new funding is coming in from the Federal Land Access Program. So this is federal funding being added for construction in 26. So not AMAT's funding that's being added to that project. The implementation grant for Burgass Street Safety Corridor or corridor safety improvements. We had to update the project description to reflect the recent communication from FHWA and USDOT about lane reductions or capacity reductions not being eligible for this funding source. So we had to remove any of the road diet or lane reduction efforts as part of that project. You'll notice there's a strike through on the memo. There was some miscommunication, it seems, because I think originally we were asked to reduce the funding for that project, but it turns out that that is not true. So we are striking that and not changing anything to the funding of that grant. It's just a project description update. And then there's 3 new projects here. 2 of them you already know about. It's the life safety access roads that we talked about as part of the MTP. And there's another one. There's the Rabbit Creek at 140th Avenue drainage improvements. This is also an effort that the municipality of Anchorage is seeking various funding sources for. Protect Grant, for example, is one they're trying to go to for this one to get funding to help make improvements in that area. So it is not an environmentally impactful project, so it doesn't have to be added to the MTP. It just has to be consistent with the MTP, but it does need to be in the TIP. Any questions on that table? Okay, now on to the big changes. First, it's the one that's maybe confusing, but hopefully will make things a little bit better. I was contacted today, maybe a couple hours before the policy committee, with some concerns from project managers about the timeline of the amendment and how it'll impact some of their projects. And is there a way that we can move some of these changes quicker? So talking with James, thank you, James, for your help. We actually have some recommended changes based on this. So the idea here is to pull these changes out of the amendment, which typically takes 3 to 6 months to get done, and move them into an admin mod, which takes about a month and a half to get done. These are a number of projects that are waiting for cost changes from one year to the next or small dollar increases in FY26 to keep moving forward. So I'm going to go through those changes really quickly. Spinard Road Rehabilitation, adding the $1 million in design funding in FY26. That is below our threshold, and it meets the admin mod threshold instead of amendment threshold, and it'd be nice to keep that project moving forward. Otter Drive Rehabilitation, just moving the funding from one year to the next. That is an amendment level or an admin mod threshold. Mountain Air Drive, same thing. Downtown Trail Connection, the increase in funding in FY26 is needed ASAP to finish the design effort so they can get the construction moving for that project. Fish Creek Trail Connection, the only thing we would be able to do for this one is add the additional design funding in FY26. The moving of the funding from 26 to 27 for the utilities construction needs to be done as part of the amendment. Campbell Creek Trail Grade Separated Crossing, changing the funding from FY25 to FY26, but no overall cost. And then lastly, one thing that's on the memo, but I didn't mention, updating the Spinard Road Rehabilitation projects to reflect the 50-50 match split between MOA and DOT. Right now, it says that the Muni is responsible for all the match for those projects, and it's actually a 50-50 split. So there's no change to the overall cost. It's just a error that has been there for years, and we really need to change it. So staff's recommendation is to go ahead and pull these out of the amendment. And by pull, I mean change them in the amendment to where they're final, they're draft final. Bring them forward to you all in January as part of an admin mod. Get your approval of it and get it incorporated into it by February. And then when we bring the amendment back to you in March, it will be updated to reflect the admin mod. That allows the project managers to move forward for these funding requests about 2 to 3 months earlier than anticipated. So it gives a little bit more breathing room before the end of the fiscal year. Now, it will change our overall funding requirements. So we will have to pull some money from a project to pay for all of this because we are fiscally constrained. And so staff's recommending that we reduce the non-motorized pavement replacement program as part of this admin mod by the $6 million needed to cover all of these cost changes. We were already going to reduce the non-motorized pavement replacement program as part of the amendment. So this is just moving it from the amendment into the admin mod. I apologize that it's confusing. I will say that after this happened, I think I started formulating a better plan for how James and I can work together on identifying changes that we get and parsing them out into amendment, admin mod, or staff level change, and then getting a timeline associated with them a little bit easier so we don't have this happen again or reduce this happening again in the future. So, and I do apologize to any project manager who has been wearing their hat off. I'm not sure whether these changes were going to be done on time. That was not the intent. Any questions on those?
If I could.
No, please.
Does that, so if we do the admin mod in January, does that change what we passed today?
We would need to update today to basically reflect whatever change we're going to be doing in the admin mod to basically make it a draft version of the final of what it's going to look like. And so that would be all the items that I listed to you. We're already making those changes, so we would just change them from red to black in the amendment.
Okay. Is there a reason we can't do the admin mod today?
We have to post it and it has to go to the TAC first. So the admin mod has not been posted for the public to be able to review, and that is a requirement.
No different than what's in the amendment.
Technically, it is no different than what we have in the amendment. We just haven't specifically called it out for the public to be able to see and provide comments on it.
It's the public review period for this.
Just getting it before the committee.
Questions for Aaron?
Would it make sense for us to go ahead and take that action now and then sort of deal with the rest of the TIP amendment?
It could be, if you do a motion to approve the TIP amendment for release, and then you go in and you do an amendment to edit it and adjust based on these items that we talked about and say pull them out or change them from red to black, and then bring back an admin mod in January for final approval.
Okay. So we'll need to do that sort of all as one
If that's what you guys,
nibus.
yes,
Okay.
if you would like to do that, yes.
Great.
And that's the best option for, as far as timeliness.
Yeah, I would recommend that. And we really need to keep it as clean as possible, because when we go back and look at what was changed, just mixing it all in with this and say, oh, we approved it as an admin mod while we were doing the amendment release. It's really hard to parse out what changes happened, and being able to send that information to the feds and everybody. It's really challenging if you mix and match things. So we really need to keep it separated as possible.
Questions?
Okay, now the HSIP changes. So yesterday, we received an email from the Commissioner of DOT with their approved FY26 HSIP program, their funding program.
Have you shared the plan with the committee?
I did. I shared it. Yeah, I forwarded it yesterday as soon as I received it from the commissioner. And then I had to send a follow-up because there was some confusing language in there. Basically, not a lot of things got approved for funding in the AMATS area that were originally shown in the TIP. And so because of that, we're going to have to make some changes to the TIP and the HSIP program and remove a number of the projects. So before you in the document here, I have outlined those changes so you can see what they are, and I will go through them one by one for you. First, Gamble Street Utility Pole Removal and Increased Lighting Project. The FY26 funding was not approved, so we have to zero that out.
Sorry, Aaron, didn't say approved by who?
The Commissioner of DOT,
Thanks.
as part of his funding plan for the HSIP program for FY26. Next project, Gamble and Ingram Street overhead signal indication upgrades. This was just showing a funding hit in FY26. That did not get approved. As there is no other funding for this project, it has to be completely removed from the TIP. Next page, we have the Northern Lights Boulevard Road Diet Project. This project showed a hit of funding in 26. That did not get approved. As such, there's no other funding, the TIP for this project, so it has to be removed from the TIP. Next, Ingram Gamble Road Diet. This actually showed two hits of money, one in 25 and one in 26. With the funding program, it showed that 26 was not funded, and I actually asked DOT, and the 25 funding was never obligated either. So to reflect what actually happened with this project, we need to zero out both years, which removes all funding for this project and will have to be removed from the TIP. There's a small cost increase for the Seward Highway Safety Corridor Variable Speed Limit Project in 26. There was $210,000 added as part of the utility work for that project. Mountain View Drive safety improvements, the FY26 design and right-of-way funding was not approved, so it has to be zeroed out. And then the A Street Road Diet project, similar to the Ingram Gamble Road Diet project, it showed two hits of funding, but when we actually went in to look at it, there was no funding obligated for the 25 funding, and the 26 funding was not funded either. So that project has to be removed from the program. There are 4 new projects that are being recommended, not really recommended, that were just in the program. I apologize, I did not have them on the list for you. It was pretty last minute that we got this, so it was a lot to parse through. Let me get to those real quick if I can. It's the Ocean Dock Road 2 track signal system upgrade, $65,000 in FY26. There's the Central Region FY26 through 31 Fatal Crash Review Team and Rapid Response Fund, $600,000 in FY26. Region-wide systemic retroreflective back plates at signalized intersections, $162,000 in FY26. And the CR, Central Region Red Light Indicator Lights and Retroreflective Back Plates, $19,000 in FY26. Those are the 4 new projects listed on here. I will let you know there was no request from the Department of Transportation to incorporate those projects into the TIP. So I'm not sure what they want us to do. So those are the changes for the HSIP table. I will let you know we do have to make these funding levels, these changes that you have here in this document. If we do not make these changes, the program will not be fiscally constrained. That's all I had. Thank you.
One more time. So you need a request from the DOT to add those 4 projects.
Yeah, I mean, all we were sent was the funding program with some information, but there was no request from DOT on what they wanted us to do.
But I guess I can repeat what I said earlier. That highway safety improvement program, one of the most important parts that we have in the state with the safety needs that we have in the urban environment of Anchorage within the AMAC boundary, we could probably spend that entire pot every single year. Important for the state to spend that pot. So our projects in Anchorage were pushed because we didn't have the projects ready. So again, need to find a solution, need to work on resources to get those things developed because there's important projects that got pushed.
I'm sorry, would you say that again? These projects got pushed, why?
Because they aren't shovel ready. It's a real important program for us to spend every year. And if we have the needs in Anchorage, but if there are other projects around the state that are shovel ready to bid this year, and we aren't ready to deliver ours, then they would take precedent because we have to spend that money. That makes sense? We didn't have projects. We don't have these projects ready to bid in fiscal 26.
Say more about that.
Projects aren't ready to bid in 26. The projects that are going through construction that are lined out aren't ready for construction.
Aaron, do we happen to have the commissioner's communication entered into the public record for this meeting?
No, I sent it to you all, but it wasn't posted on the agenda. So, because we didn't have it at that time.
Ah.
We received it yesterday at, I think, sorry, just a second. We received it yesterday at 10:49 a.m. In order to be part of the agenda, it would have had to be received last week prior to the Thursday posting.
Please.
Aaron, is there a way that we could attach that as an exhibit to this via amendment? You know, it pertains to this, so I don't see it as a separate agenda item.
Yeah, we can add it after the fact. We can go back and post it. It's just, we've already posted the agenda itself, so that's typically our process is if it's not available when we post the agenda, we don't go back and edit it, but we can go back in and add it to the website and say, this was provided to us after the agenda was posted. It's here for informational purposes.
Does that require any particular action from this committee?
Just you guys asking us to do that. There's no formal vote that you need to do unless you guys want to take a vote on it.
Need to vote on it. Would you post it as part of the minutes or something, or just post it?
Yeah, we just posted on the agenda after the meeting, after we're done here. We can grab the PDF that we were provided and we can put it on there as informational items. And it'll pertain to the fact that some changes had to be made at the meeting, so people will probably want to see what those are.
Yeah, I think that would be interesting. We do that after we do the public comment or whatever, but I guess I'm curious because what I read in that letter, and again, I'm processing all this information. I think Aaron and I had our phones and emails blowing up this morning. The letter from the commissioner doesn't seem to say the same thing that that you said just now, Mr. Chair. I think it points to we discussed at our last meeting about this new policy for lane drops, and not so much the projects not being ready to bid or being shovel ready. And so I guess one question I have is some of these projects, this is tip amendment number 4, and these projects have also been in the MTP, a few of them. How long have these projects been part of our planning documents? How opportunity to push it?
Yeah, I don't know the specific answer, but I'm not a long time. And I guess I'm talking about the bigger hits or the construction utilities, and that's what I'm talking about is that we didn't have those ready to go. As far as the lane drops go, we have one draft of the lane drop analysis that we need to do for several projects. Inger and Gamble is a priority. We're hoping to have that done by the end of the year. Yeah, it's not done.
I thought isn't it true that there has been an analysis of Gamble and Ingra for lane drops, both past and ongoing as part of the Pell process? We've had analysis of Gamble.
There's one ongoing, but we haven't seen it in draft form.
Aaron, what is your understanding about the analysis that's been done at Gamble and Ingra for lane drops in this type of project?
Well, the ones I can remember are back in the day when Scott Thomas was there as the traffic engineer. He did an internal review and determined that a lane drop could happen as long as you made improvements at intersections, because there were some concerns about intersection capacity.
What time frame?
I don't remember, unfortunately. We'd have to go back and look, but it was when there was expectation of significant growth in our community. So, keep that in mind. Then I believe the community paid for an analysis to be done, which spurred the PEL to be put into the AMATS program funded. There's the HSIP project that was looked at for lane reduction in the area. The MTP looked at lane reduction on a regional level, in addition to other changes, like lane reductions on 5th and 6th Avenue, and they could work together. And then there's the Seward to Glen PEL, which, Galen, correct me if I'm wrong, but my understanding is that it found a lane drop, and we're just talking a single lane drop off of Inger Gamble, not the full thing that people want, can be done immediately before anything else. So in my opinion, as staff, there's been more analysis done on the Inger Gamble lane drop than there has been on almost anything else in our community besides Kinnick Arm and a few other things.
So, we were given a presentation in July, I think July 16th, a joint presentation from DOT and the municipal traffic department about the Vision Zero effort. And the presentation that was provided pointed to the high crash network. And all of these projects were mentioned in that. So Gamble and Ingra utility pole, Northern Light safety improvements, Drive, A Street safety improvements. So I guess I'm just curious. I want to hear more about the rationale at a time when we are having record pedestrian fatalities, DOT facilities. Why DOT would move to defund these proven safety countermeasure projects.
I don't know what more to say other than we have the engineers, the statewide engineers directive that we're going to run through that and make it a data driven analysis on whether or not we drop lanes on those projects. We haven't completed those. And then the projects that are shown for construction this year aren't ready to go this year.
So earlier in a prior discussion, you mentioned the delays of projects. And I guess it just occurs to me, like, why is DOT taking the step to have this new policy that would delay these safety projects?
I'm not following.
Well, it seemed that the commissioner's letter seemed to indicate, and as we discussed at our prior AMAPS meeting, that the projects are going to be delayed until this new lane drop policy is done. So I guess I'm wondering why, on one hand, it seems to be that you're voicing frustration for project delays, but on these, DOT is actively delaying these projects for their new internal policy.
Yeah, the analysis hasn't been completed yet on the lane drops. We have one drop, A and C, or A Street. That's it.
Okay. Then I have a question for Mr. Downey. When did the mayor's office become aware of these changes?
At the same time as you.
Okay. I'm just looking at this, and I don't want to be too much of a conspiracy theorist, but the majority of these are in District 1, in my district. And I know, I've heard, I don't know, because I wasn't there, but I've heard that there was a meeting. Was there a meeting this week between the mayor and DOT?
Yeah, myself and Joe Busa, the municipal attorney, met with the commissioner this week. We also had a good meeting this week with the department on the Pell and the Safer Seward with the mayor.
Do you want to, I guess, so none of this was discussed in that meeting?
No.
Okay. One question I just want to put out there, I guess, is there a negotiation being sought here? Is any of this retaliatory to lack of support for the Safer Seward Highway project?
Absolutely not. No.
Okay. So if this money is not going to be spent in Anchorage, which, as you noted previously, is one of the few urban areas in Alaska, where will these funds go?
It's in the plan. Various other places within the state.
Okay. All right. I think I will let others ask questions for the time being.
Yeah, I think I have some follow-on questions. I'd love to understand why we're just seeing this document. Can you shed some light on that?
I just saw it Thursday or yesterday myself.
So you weren't involved at all in making any of these determinations. Okay.
Other than, information that's generated in my region, on when a project's going to be available for construction, or whether the lane drop analysis they're done. That's the input that I've had. I didn't.
Yeah. So these determinations were made at the commissioner level.
Yeah, I would say the statewide team.
The statewide team. Who else is involved in that team, apart from the commissioner?
The statewide traffic engineer. I couldn't even tell you who all is on the team that reviewed that.
Interesting. So I think I'm curious because some of these projects are not lane diets, which was the rationale that the commissioner offered in his communication as to why these projects were not, in fact, selected for funding in fiscal year 26. But what I'm struggling to reconcile is the fact that the Gamble Street utility pole removal and increased pedestrian lighting project and the overhead signal indication upgrade project have both been around since 2019, so that's 6 years. Does not involve a lane diet, and yet those were removed from the funding package. Vision Zero speed limit compliance requires no physical construction. not a lane diet.
We currently have money programs for that we haven't spent. So we need to spend the money that we have. Before we move it.
But doesn't that funding accrue from fiscal year to fiscal year?
Yeah, you have to get to a certain point in the project where you can request the next. It's an iterative process, right?
Are you aware of how much funding was programmed for that project in fiscal year 25?
I'm not aware.
Okay. And then the last piece is, it's not a lane diet. That does not involve immediate shovels, is Tudor Road at Wright Street and Dale, vulnerable road user improvements, also removed from funding. Can you speak to that? Okay. So I think, how would you suggest then that data-driven decisions are being made with respect to safety?
Data, well, we need to spend the program. Right? And so if we're not ready to deliver the projects in Anchorage, that money still needs to be spent. I mean, we have a lot of needs, but there are also needs around the state. It's a fixed pot of money. And if they're ready to deliver projects in other parts of the state, they're going to get the funding.
I appreciate that, but not all of the funding that's outlined in this HSIP is for construction.
Right.
Some of it's for design, some of it's for utilities. And I'm struggling to square this, because when I look at the actual data, when I look at the high crash location screening process, this is, I mean, 46 of the top 50 locations are within AMATs.
Yeah, so we could spend it all in Anchorage. We could spend it all within the AMATs boundary.
And
we have to be able to deliver the projects. I don't know how else to say that. I don't want to get in. This feels like a circular conversation, and I know you're disappointed. I'm disappointed. We need to figure out how to deliver those projects.
We do, and I think what I'm trying to say is this feels like a question of prioritization. Mm-hmm. And I think, I mean, I appreciate that the HSIP budget is 5-6% of the overall DOT expenditures in any given year. So comparatively, I understand that this is a small pot of money. I think what's troubling about that is that, I mean, these nominations were due in September, and the fact that they're just coming to us now, immediately prior to our release of this TIP amendment for public comment, and the fact that a significant chunk of funding has been removed from basically the window of opportunity for AMATs for the next fiscal year. There's some asymmetry there that I'm struggling to reconcile when 40% of all fatalities this calendar year have been in Anchorage. And yet what's allocated for Anchorage is 9 million out of 76.8 million for fiscal year 26. That is wild to me. And it begs the question, what's going on? I mean, it's very difficult to say that, like, we have this data and yet we're not allocating funding or staff resources in line with the data. And I think, as a policymaker who is responsible to my constituents and to really all of Anchorage to explain this, there's nothing I can say that passes the red face test. And I would love your thoughts on, like, how do we explain this to Anchorage?
And I've given you my answer. It's not going to change. I appreciate, yeah, definitely. We need to do a better job.
I think I don't mean that, I want to be really clear, Mr. Holland, these comments are
You're
not a
clear.
bit directed at you, and this is not, this is not
The DOT.
this is not a personal thing. But we're coming to a point in our city where we need to do better is no longer an acceptable statement.
Sure.
Like, we're coming to a place where either this is a situation of active negligence, incompetence, or outright hostility. Those are the only three explanations for this level of asymmetry. And I can't come up with a fourth option.
Mhm.
So I'm at a loss as to how to handle what landed in our laps yesterday and how to move forward with like good faith and fair dealing. I really don't know how to do that right now. And I welcome your suggestions on how we can do a better job of finding that space of good faith and fair dealing, because this doesn't feel like it at all.
I wonder, to that point, Aaron, solutions here. Maybe this is a question for you, Aaron, or for you, Sean, but I guess I'm sort of wondering procedurally, the commissioner sent us a letter describing what he intends to forward to the Federal Highway Administration in terms of HSIP projects. What is that final? Is that decision set in stone? Has that list already been forwarded? And if not, what is the timeline on that? Is that September? What is the timeline on that?
I don't know the answer to that. I mean, I assume it's fine, or, being sent to the others.
It's fine.
It's final.
With the commissioner's signature, it's final. He signed off on the document for the funding program for 26. Is my understanding. I believe the DOT can do supplemental funding at later times, but
And we have some ability to move small amounts of funding around within the program, within the region. So, we're not gonna quit working on the projects we're not gonna quit working on the lane drop analysis. We're not gonna quit working on the Ingrid Gamble projects. So fun.
So I have a question on that note. Okay, so the commissioner says in his letter, until the corridor level operational safety maintenance and where appropriate, system-wide analysis required by the directive. Okay, let me actually back up. Rather, DOT MPF has recently adopted a chief engineer's directive that establishes a consistent statewide framework for evaluating lane reductions and road diets on state-owned facilities. Until the corridor level operational safety maintenance and where appropriate system-wide analysis required by that directive are completed, it would not be appropriate to include projects with these specific scopes in the HSIP funding plan. So you have a draft of, or first draft, it sounds like, of that that policy. When it strikes me as, I guess, okay, the question is, when is that supposed to be done? When do you anticipate that policy is going to be in its final form and ready to be used for analysis?
I think it's an engineer's directive that's final. Are you talking about the analysis?
The policy that's mentioned in the letter, the directive establishing this framework for evaluating lane reductions and road diets. When will that framework be completed?
It's part of the lane drop analysis.
Yeah,
That's in the engineer's draft.
When will
it's in draft form for A Street. Yeah. So it's going to take us a little while to turn that around.
Like months?
Not months. Short term. Yeah, and Ingrid Gamble is our evaluate. A Street came first, but it won't take us months. It's going to be forever.
Because it just strikes me, if that policy that then from that is birthed the analysis of these projects. If that's like ready to go in weeks, but this is our 4-year document that we are defunding these projects from. And if the rationale from the commissioner is saying this isn't done yet, so we can't fund these projects, but it's going to be done in a couple of weeks. Why would we fund these projects in 2026.
We don't know what the analysis is gonna on, the majority.
So, okay, so for each project, for each safety project, where there's going to be a lane drop or a lane reduction, until the analysis is done on each project, they can't be put in a short-term transportation plan.
Yeah.
And that's going to apply statewide, not
Yes.
just in Anchorage.
Again, we need to spend a pot of money. So leaning towards the known projects.
And I want to make sure we have lots of time to discuss this, lots of thoughts and concerns, but I think procedurally, maybe, should we take testimony from the public?
Happy to do that unless you have any other questions.
I think I just want to be sure that, I mean, looking at the project phasing, we're really not just talking about whether a project is shovel ready. We're really talking about wholesale reevaluation of these projects.
Which project?
Well,
The lane drop.
yeah,
Yes.
okay. Clear.
Any comments from the public? Hi, Alexa.
Alexa Dotson, Executive Director of BPAC Anchorage. My comments will primarily be on the HSIP changes that DOT has just put forward. The big thing that is standing out to me here, I hope we can all hear and notice the circular logic that is occurring. DOT internally decided that we need to implement a policy where we go back and we reanalyze all of the road diet projects. And now that means that, whoops, we can't fund these projects because we still have to do our analysis that we require for ourselves internally. There are no external factors. The feds aren't saying you have to do this. DOT is doing this to themselves. They stick in their own spokes, so to speak. The targeted and precise nature of these cuts, I think, tells the whole story. This plan is cutting $19 million in safety projects. $18.7 million of that is for AMAT's area projects. I think that tells you all you need to know about the focus of this. All the other regions in this HSIP plan are getting fully funded for all of the projects that they requested. It's only the AMAT's area and a little bit of outlying that are experiencing these cuts. Need I remind you, we have had 15 pedestrians plus 1 bicyclist killed this year. We are in one of the most deadly years on Anchorage roads in decades. And it is not a coincidence that the projects that are being cut in this proposal are exactly in the areas where people are dying needlessly on our roads. That is inexcusable. That is an absolute abdication of responsibility. The justification offered for defunding these safety projects doesn't stand up to the slightest scrutiny, as we have seen here. HSIP is explicitly designed for lane reduction and other proven safety countermeasures. And as we have seen from the information in this session so far, these projects have already been assessed. They have already been vetted. They have already been approved. They have been through these processes. And this internal lane drop policy from the chief engineer does not add anything meaningful to that analysis. I would also like to highlight that this directly contradicts what AMATS was told by the chief engineer at the last policy committee meeting. Lauren Little, the chief engineer, got up here and she stated that we don't need to worry about this. It's just a procedural thing. We're just gathering more data. And then this comes around and happens. I'm sorry. I think that a lot of the folks in this room have, they have limitations on what they can say, but I don't, so I'm going to say it. You guys were lied to. They lied to your faces. And we need to recognize that we are not dealing with minor policy differences here. This is significant and it needs to be treated as such. I'm sorry, is that my time?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Please state your name, please.
Hi, I'm Harrison Smith. I live in Anchorage in the Fairview neighborhood. I wanted to speak to the news we've all just received that Alaska DOT and PF plans to cut nearly 19 million federally funded highway safety improvement program projects in the Anchorage area. On the heels of 2 years of the deadliest that are deadliest for pedestrians in Anchorage, cannot think of a more unconscionable move. Is DOT and PF trying to be the most outrageous supervillain in this story because that's working at the moment? 30 lives have been cut short, 30 families in mourning. Have the DOT officials involved spoken with any of these families? A single one? Have they learned their stories and their dreams? Some will callously blame them for their own deaths. Let me be clear, nobody deserves to die regardless of what horrible wrong they do on our roads. Vision Zero has shown that 0 deaths and injuries is possible, but those in power must have the spine to prioritize and fund it. This brings me to the 7 safety projects to be cut on our deadly DOT-owned roadways. 3 of these projects are blocks from my own home on the Gambrel-Ingra corridor, and for good reason. This couplet of 4-lane roads is the omnipresent source of noise, exhaust, glare, and mortal threat to all of my neighbors. Among the most disinvested and without cars. For decades, promises have been made that have only been reneged on, and now this is another shameful instance of this exact same thing. Also, drivers with large empty vehicles can get to their destination several seconds faster. So my message to those who have influence over this, know that the world is watching, that this will not be quietly slipped through the rug. Even if you have found a way to look in the mirror, any injury or death you have the power to prevent. A story is being written here, so think about which side you're being written on. All I have to say.
Thanks. Anybody else?
We have a member of the public online. Alan Kemplin.
Mr. Kemplin, please.
Alan, you're muted. You're still
Okay,
muted.
now, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, great. Hey, thanks. Hey, I'm shocked. I'm totally shocked at this information. It is something that it comes out of the blue, and I think the 2 presenters before me summarized, very eloquently, the issues and the disconnect, between the purpose of this program and the reality of what is being experienced, within our community. And I would like to say that we've been working cooperatively with Central Region DOT for the past 1.5 years on the Gambrel-Ingra, corridor plan, reconnecting Fairview, and they've been very open with us, and we have a good relationship with Central Region. This policy is not Central Region. This policy is headquarters. This policy, this is folks down in Juneau making decisions that affect significant lives, within our metropolitan area. So, the response the response is going to go to it's going to be in Juneau. So who carries that response? It's the legislature, right? Our legislative representatives, in the Senate and in the House, right? They should be holding statewide DOT accountable for this, and they can do that, through their transportation, committees. And the session is beginning here in January. And AMAT's policy committee, I strongly encourage AMAT's policy committee to pass a resolution, advocating for the state legislature to hold robust committee meetings on the issues that, on these HSIP, projects. And not necessarily hold, there's a lot of things going on down there with DOT and statewide. And they need to be held accountable for the decisions that are negatively impacting Alaskans. And AMATS policy members, you have the ability to spur our legislature to action. Please exercise that ability.
Thank you, Alan.
Okay, next we have Diana Evans.
Ms. Evans, please.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, this is Diana Evans. I'm the AMATS Community Advisory Committee member for Assembly District 4, and that's the 9 community councils represented by Aaron Baldwin Day and Felix Rivera, roughly in and east of Midtown. For nearly 2 years, our community has watched the number of pedestrian and cyclists dying as a result of motor vehicle collisions increase and stay high. The community council areas I represent are squarely in the death zone due to the many high-speed arterials crisscrossing the district. Year to date, Anchorage has 16 of these deaths, tracking just as high as the year before. I can come up with no adjectives to describe the credulity I, and I'm sure my neighbors will feel when a meagerly funded highway safety improvement project proposes to significantly delay worthwhile vetted projects designed to provide safety mitigations to make our transportation network safer for everyone. It's over 90% of the entire HSIP budget. We strongly object to these cuts. How is it that the resources have not been provided to get some of these important projects shovel ready? You're letting our community down. Thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Evans.
We have another online, Lindsay.
Go ahead, Lindsay.
Yeah, hi everybody. I'm Lindsay Hyduk. I don't know what hat to speak on behalf of, so I'm just going to speak as a community member. Like everybody before me, I can't believe these changes coming from the commissioner's office. Anchorage is in a crisis right now, not just for the extreme number of pedestrian fatalities, but the highest fatalities on our roadways. Over 30 people, or about 30 people have been killed on our roads last year and 30 people again this year, which means about 30 other people were involved in killing or these collisions across our community. I can't come up with a cost benefit analysis that says people's lives don't matter. And the decision to remove safety funding from projects that are long identified and needed and agreed upon by the department is unbelievable. I do look to the Department of Transportation as a partner and a leader. Your team knows better than anyone, your traffic safety engineers and experts in how to make our roadways safer. The roads in Anchorage where most of these collisions happen are on DOT managed roadways. And I know that your teams want to do what's right for our community, and this decision is wrong. I'm so disappointed to see this. I want to move forward in good faith and move these projects forward quickly because it's essential. And while we wait and pass letters around, we're losing people in our community that we shouldn't.
Thanks, Lindsay. Representative Mears.
Oh, if we want to go in the room before we go back to online, see if there's anyone in the room.
Anybody else in the room? Yeah, please.
Thank you for the opportunity. Name is Representative Ted Eichscheid. I'm a little reticent to speak because I'm here in my professional capacity, but I do want you to know that I represent Northeast Anchorage, House District 22. I live in an area where safety is important to individuals. I knock a lot of doors. People have told me they don't feel safe walking, biking, and because of that, I've done some work. Last June, I had Commissioner Ryan come to Muldoon Road, which lies in my district. I was joined by Representative Donna Mears and Senator Bill Wielkowski. We're trying to highlight the concerns, the safety concerns of that road. Moreover, I recently went to Muldoon Elementary with a staff person and talking about safe routes to schools and what kids have to navigate to get to their elementary school. It is a big concern. And I assume everyone is concerned about the crisis. So what we know is we do have a crisis. What we know is people want a resolution to that crisis. What we just saw in Western Alaska, the crisis there, state government came through. We have the same crisis here, different sort. So I have read the commissioner's letter. I've listened to the dialogue here. It doesn't make sense to me. And one of the things that I have to, on Saturday, I have a constituent coffee. How do I explain this to my constituents? In good faith, I can't. That really is an uncomfortable position for a legislator. So, ironically, the governor has asked for a reduction in regulations. This is a policy change. It's disconcerting. So I appreciate the committee's work. I'm going to be watching this super closely. I'm concerned about my constituents. And being a victim in the past in another state of bad safety issues and being struck as a bicyclist, I'm personally concerned. So I hope we can move forward and give some confidence in government because that's what people want. Thank you for the opportunity.
I think there's another individual in the room.
State your name if you would, please.
Thank you. I'm Donna Mears. I represent just south of Ted in the South Muldoon District in East Anchorage. I've got a resolution to pass around from the Northeast Community Council just passed last month regarding pedestrian safety in the district. So my district runs from Baxter Road through the Tudor Muldoon curve up to Chomsky Muldoon Park. Representative Eichscheid is north of me on Muldoon Road. I'm just going to read a couple bits of this. DOT and Public Facilities has identified that limited street lighting, high vehicle speeds, and the need for greater public awareness have been recognized as contributing factors for pedestrian fatalities, particularly in high-risk corridors such as Tudor Road, Muldoon Road, and Burgaw Street. So there are some already identified issues that can be increase some of our safety in our corridors, including Muldoon. There's a channelization project on Tudor Road that was mentioned today that it's getting pushed down the road. I've been involved in my community council for a long time in Northeast Community Council. Foothills Community Council has been advocating for safety improvements along the Tudor Muldoon curve for longer than I've been doing this work. And that's another project that's getting pushed off. The last line here said, be it further resolved that the NECC urges timely implementation of these measures, and it encourages all residents to adhere to the safety initiatives for the benefit of the community. If we're pushing off the planning, we're pushing off the solutions, and that is really concerning. So for the commenter earlier asking about the legislature, there's two legislators here in the room. Representative Eichscheid, Co-Chairs, House Transportation Committee. There are staff in the room. I know there's more folks listening online, and I'm sure there's more of my colleagues that will be listening to this meeting later. We're watching, we care, and we're paying attention to. Thank you.
Anybody else in the room? How about
We have,
maybe one or two online?
we do have another one online, Diana Rhodes.
Ms. Rhodes, please.
Hi, thank you. My name is Diana Rhodes. I serve on the Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Committee, and we have Anchorage Park Foundation has been a partner on the Seward Pell and working closely with DOT and with Lindsay at NeighborWorks and the Community Council. And it's just so disappointing to hear that the Transportation Commissioner would continue to I don't know, approve a policy that goes against what his own team is already working on for these projects. So it's confusing to understand why he would want to do that. I just want to point out that Anchorage Park Foundation and lots of community partners worked with the Anchorage Assembly to get a resolution passed to Congress. It passed unanimously, and we'll be sharing it with our federal elected officials. The resolution is about increasing non-motorized transportation in the new 5-year spending plan for transportation. And it also highlights the need for the HSIP funding and how critical it is. So again, disappointed with this decision and urge the Transportation Commissioner to undo his actions and prepare a new memo that doesn't require these additional studies. Thank you so much.
Thank you. We have another one online, Senator Bill Wielechowski. Senator Wielechowski.
Hi, this is Bill Wielechowski, State Senator representing East Anchorage. And this is an appalling decision by the commissioner. I sit on the Senate Transportation Budget Subcommittee. And if this is how the department is going to make decisions, then we need to take a very, very serious look at how we're funding that department. And I can guarantee you that we will do just that this coming session if this plan is not reversed. This is outrageous to shift $19 million, a community decision, out of Anchorage into other communities. It's an outrageous decision, needs to be reversed. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator.
But I don't see anyone else online.
Thank you. That was maybe not 100% germane to the action item, but thank you for everybody for testifying. It's good to hear that feedback, and not that we didn't expect it to come. So, back to the action item, which is to recommend that the policy committee. It's not the transportation plan. It's the
funding plan.
The TIP amendment number 4. Is there a will of the committee? And remind us, Aaron, the most efficient is to approve the TIP amendment as it is.
Yeah, so to start off, at least to recommend or to approve releasing it for a 45-day public comment period. And if there are edits that you want to make, then you would do amendments after that period.
Do we have any other options with respect to this action item?
What do you mean?
Are there
I could jump in.
Sure.
If this was delayed to the next meeting, would there be any real world consequences?
It just pushes back when it gets approved, incorporated into the STIP. I'll be honest with you, amendments take 2 months or more to get incorporated into the STIP. So we're already pushing out to the May timeframe. And then if we push it out another month, that's June. That means it'll be July before project managers can get the funds obligated for their projects. And that doesn't leave a lot of time because the fiscal year ends September.
Funding generally is a 6-week process to obligate that funding to, so that if there are any construction projects in there that push them up. Can we take 5 minutes? Sure. Thanks.
Actually,
Okay,
All right,
ready to get started?
we have a motion ready?
We do.
Okay. So we're going to make a motion that the policy committee release the 2023 to, let's say 2023,
Yes.
to 26 tip amendment number 4 for a 45-day public comment period with the changes recommended by the TAC. And also directing AMAT staff to add a note as part of the public comment outreach process indicating the policy committee's objection to Commissioner Anderson's decision to defund lane drops and other safety projects within the AMAP's boundary.
Look like Dr. Boland. Something to add?
I was going to ask Mr. Jonganalen if we need to also add the directive to remove items for the admin mod as part of this same motion.
You can do it as an amendment.
Great.
To the motion, and if you want to keep it cleaner.
Okay, let's do that.
So second.
Second.
Moved by Dr. Boland, seconded by Mr. Graham. Is there any further discussion need on that?
Well, I think we need an amendment, so I would move to amend to exclude the items that would be suitable for an admin mod, including Spinard, Potter Drive, Mountain Air, Downtown Trail, Fish Creek, and I think there are 2 others that were named earlier.
Campbell Creek Overcrossing.
Campbell Creek Overcrossing.
And Fish Creek. Did you say that one already?
And Fish Creek.
And updating the Spinard Road match.
Thank you. Yep, the items that I listed earlier.
The items you listed earlier.
Second.
The amendment is seconded, so we can vote on the amendment, right?
Yes.
I think I'll go with a, there are any objections to the amendment? Hearing none, on to the main motion. Any further discussion on that?
Over.
No, I don't want to put this out for public comment, indicating that the policy committee supports what we've discussed today.
I think I might add, I think a persistent problem that we've been trying to solve over the last 18 months that I've been on the policy committee is communication. And I think this is just an unfortunate example of last minute communication about a really serious topic. And I think we really need to have information earlier and more transparently from DOT so that we can be collaborative partners. So I think AMATS becomes a block and becomes a barrier when we don't have strong communication. And I know that, DOT have been great partners in many ways on Vision Zero and other projects, but we really need to continue to develop that partnership and have earlier communication so that we can avoid situations like this. So I think, I think that's one thing that I'll say. And I think, I'll leave it at that.
Any other discussion?
I think I'm going to reiterate my desire for a commitment to good faith and fair dealing. And I appreciate Mr. Downey's conciliatory posture and chalking this up to a failure of communication. I think it's a much larger failure, and I think that I would like for us to find a way to understand where the disconnect in our values is happening, where the disconnect in prioritization is happening, and to address those things in a very clear and direct manner so that we do not continue to find ourselves having this same conversation month after month after month. It's I think frustrating is an understatement. And I would love to see us come to a place where we are operating from the same set of values and the same set of priorities and are making progress for Anchorage rather than spinning our proverbial wheels.
Can you read that? Read the motion back, please.
Yes, moved to release the 23 through 26 tip amendment number 4 for a 45-day public comment period with the changes recommended by the TAC Also directing AMET staff to add a note as part of the public comment outreach process indicating that the PC objects to Commissioner Anderson's decision to defund lane drops and other safety projects within the AMAT's boundary. And then the amendment is to exclude the items for the admin mod that staff listed earlier in the meeting.
Yeah, and if I could, I don't mean to be conciliatory at all. I think we have to solve this problem together. I think there is, what I hear from DOT, and I think we all hear from DOT, is a commitment to delivering projects in Anchorage and a challenge in doing that. That's a problem we have to solve together, and actions like this don't help us solve that problem. So I think that's where I see needed additional communication, because we have to solve this problem together. We have to address the crisis of pedestrian safety in Anchorage.
I had one thing. What do you guys want me to do about the HSIP change? Those were not included in this table. Those were not part of the TAC's review and recommendation. We had to bring those at this meeting.
I think we need to include them. Right?
I would need an amendment. We would need to amend the motion to include those if you guys are wanting them included in it.
But you said if we do not include them, then the tip is not fiscally, and there's a legal obligation for it to be fiscally constrained.
Because it impacts our ability to have an air quality conformity demonstration, because in order to have a demonstration, you have to be fiscally constrained.
So in essence, our hands are tied.
Yes.
Okay.
I have a question about that. So, yeah. It just seems interesting to me that this is coming to us day of, day before we're sending this out for public comment, because essentially what that communicates to the public is no matter what they say, this is done. They don't get to weigh in this 45-day period and say, actually, we think that these projects are really important. So in a sense, you are preempting the public from giving any feedback on these projects. So, I mean, Aaron, if we put this out for comment, can it then come back to us and we incorporate these changes, or we have to incorporate these changes before we put it out for comment?
We're in kind of a weird mode here because we provided the TIP amendment to the interagency consultation committee that was fiscally constrained prior to these changes. So technically, if we release it without these changes, we're fine. But the issue comes when you do final approval, that you're gonna have to reconcile what to do with these changes because the commissioner has released his funding program. There is no money for these projects in the HSIP program. If AMATs would like to add funding to them, that's one thing. I'll be honest, you're not going to get the funding obligated by DOT. It's just we throw cards on the table. They don't want these projects, so they're not going to happen until they do their analysis as part of the lane reduction directive, and then that makes the determination what happens with them. So yes, your hands are kind of tied on this.
Okay, a follow-up question if I might. So if we have that, the motion is to direct staff who state the policy needs objection to funding these projects. How is the public going to know which projects we're talking about? Can that be incorporated in that note? If we just incorporate these and that's what we're putting out for public comment, I want the public to know what Commissioner Anderson is defunding.
Yeah, the motion said to decision to defund lane drops and other safety projects within the AMAT's boundary. We can add some kind of highlight or asterisks or something next to it. We can figure that out to say these are the ones that were recently changed based on the HSIP funding program.
Or even if they were listed.
Will the table appear this way in public documents?
Yes.
So
Yeah, the plan is to take this and put it into the TIP amendment as you see it here in front of you.
So with red strikeouts and yellow highlights?
Yes.
Okay.
Including the other, because like this doesn't include like the tutor VRU.
The tutor VRU was not funded.
Right. It's not in here.
It was never added in here.
It's a new.
Yeah, it's a brand new project. It was never originally added into this table, so there's nothing for us to delete.
It wasn't in this tip.
Right.
Unless.
Just thinking the public wouldn't see.
Correct. The public would not see that.
Well, we are going to be posting the PDF from the commissioner that shows on our website. So I guess we can have that available as part of whatever we post out for the public as well, so they can see those changes. I know Christine's looking at me like, what are you doing? But We can try and make it available for everybody.
So it will as a new project, it will just be the 2 road at Wright Street and Dale. And that would not appear in this.
From the HSIP list?
Correct.
None of the new projects from the HSIP list are on this list here.
Okay.
These are just the existing projects and the changes accompanying that.
So we need an amendment to incorporate the HSIP plan into the amendment number 4.
Yeah, depends on what you guys want to do. I only made the assumption that the changes to the fiscal constraint would be ones that you guys wanted to see, which were changes to the existing projects. I didn't do anything with the new projects because nothing was provided to me from DOT of what they wanted. And I can't read the commissioner's mind. I still haven't gotten to that level yet.
But you have it now, right? I mean, with the plan, you have that information.
I would be able to, yeah, pull that information out if that was what you guys directed me to do. Yeah.
Amendments or?
It's an unpleasant event.
Just as a reminder, we have 9 minutes left of the meeting.
Hard stop at 3. Is there someone in the room?
Unless we move to extend.
I don't know if anybody's in the room today, actually. We might be able to extend the meeting. I can ask while you guys are figuring out everything. Quick.
Sure where that puts us if we don't. It's still unclear to me. I think the final tip amendment will have to be fiscally constrained. And so it will obviously be different than we release for this 45-day period.
Okay, there's nobody after us, so we can extend the meeting if you guys want.
So hypothetically, if we didn't make any amendment to the HSIP projects, it goes out for public comment, it comes back to us, and in order to meet the legal requirements of fiscal constraint, we remove these projects, then it would have to go back out again for 45 days because that's a substantial amendment that requires public notice.
Yes, I don't necessarily know if we would have to put it back out for 45 days, another public comment period to give the public the opportunity to review it because they are amendment level changes.
I guess I'm going to propose that amendment. I don't know if I'll get a second or not, but I'll propose the amendment to incorporate the HSIP plan that's issued yesterday into the tip amendment number 4. I'll wait just a minute for a second. And maybe I'll wait 10 seconds. Yeah, so our next, we could take a roll call. I mean, again, it's not like I don't support those projects. I'm not going to vote against the DOT document. So I'll need to take a roll call on the amended motion.
Is there a second for the incorporation of the HSIP plan?
Is Ms. Frank on the line?
Do I hear a second, Ms. Frank?
Yes, you do. Thank you.
So let's vote on, we'll take a roll call on the to add the HSIP plan to tip amendment number 4. Ms. Baldwin Day, how do you vote?
Yes, under duress.
Yes, under duress. There's not a box for that. Mr. Downey.
Yes.
Ms. Frank.
Yes.
Dr. Bowen.
I will vote no.
And I'll vote yes. That amendment passes 4-1. We're back to the
main motion as amended.
Motion, yeah. And that includes
We'll release it for 45-day public comment period with the changes recommended by the TAC. Also directing staff to add the note about the PC's objection to the decision by Commissioner Anderson, and we'll highlight which of those projects those are. Remove the items for the admin mod that staff listed earlier and incorporate the HSIP plan as issued by the commissioner.
And I'll take a roll call on that as well. Ms. Day, how do you vote? Hold the day.
Yes.
Mr. Downey?
Yes.
Ms. Frank?
Yes.
Dr. Boland?
Yes.
And like I said before, I feel obligated to vote no on that, although I do support this project. But that motion passes. So.
And you voted no for the overall amendment or overall
Yeah,
motion?
because it included the.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. That's the end of the action items. James told me this was going to be an easy meeting on Monday, so.
You said it was.
We do have a few informational items. We have 2 presentations and then the obligation report, but we have 4 minutes left of the meeting.
I've got to step out.
Well, maybe we should adjourn. How long can we finish any of that?
Are any of these time sensitive?
I don't think they're time sensitive, and we can have them in the policy committee meeting in January. If that works for you all. Okay, I'll make note of that and then we'll make note of that in minutes.
Apologies to everybody that sat through the whole meeting and didn't get to presenting it, but.
All right, Galen.
I think we can just adjourn. I got a motion and, yeah, thank you. And thank you to everybody for showing up.
Hey.
Thank you.
Likewise.